I want to look at one of the most common misunderstandings when it comes to the gospel today. It was commonly misunderstood in the early days of the church. It's maybe even more misunderstood today than it was then. I run into it all the time. And to misunderstand the gospel on this point really is to misunderstand the gospel altogether. So this is an important one for us to get right. And Paul addresses it in the book of Galatians, specifically in Galatians chapter 3. He really hones in on this issue, and he begins this way. He says, "Oh, you foolish Galatians, who has bewitched you, or who has tricked you?" So the issue at hand here really is the Galatians recognize that they were saved by grace, that the work of Jesus on the cross brings them into a relationship with God. It gives them access to the goodness of God. They believed that. They understood that. Where they got it wrong was they somehow believed that having been brought into a relationship with God through Jesus' work on the cross, then it was up to them to somehow maintain that right standing with God. And Paul is confused. He's confused that they're confused on this point. He doesn't understand how they could look at the cross, to see the cross, to understand all that the cross entailed, to appreciate all that Jesus went through, all that it cost him, and then to think that somehow we have to add to what Jesus has already done, add to what Jesus says is finished, in order for us to live in a right relationship with God, or in order to continue in a right relationship with God, in order to continue to receive the good things of God, or to live within the goodness of God. This makes no sense to Paul. He can't understand how they come to this conclusion, how they can look at the cross, which Jesus describes as finished, and think there's anything that they could or should or would have to add to what Jesus has already done. What we need to see is that Jesus didn't just take away our record of wrong, he also gave us his perfect righteous record. He took our ugly record full of spot and blemish and record of sin. He took it away from us. It's no longer attached to us. And in return, he took his perfect, spotless record and gave that to us. So forever, that will be our record. There's nothing that we can do to change that. So when God looks at us, when God sees us, he doesn't see our old spotty record or our current spotty record. There's no current spotty record. There's therefore now no condemnation for those of us who are in Christ Jesus. Why? Because we now hold, we now own Jesus' perfect record. When God sees us, he sees Jesus' perfect record. So when we experience the goodness of God in our life, when we continue in our life to continue to experience the goodness of God in our life, it's not because of our good life. The only reason we experience the goodness of God in our life is because of the goodness of God in our life. Because of the finished work of Jesus on the cross. There's nothing I need to add to it. There's nothing I even could add to it. I just get to experience it because Jesus has given me his perfect, spotless record, and it's just that easy.